Good evening, welcome. It's Monday night, it's the Fan Zone Show. My name's Phil. Welcome to the show. As ever, this is about me. You get your comments in. What do you want to talk about? Leicester's draw at Palace. Could have been a win, should have been a win. 2 points dropped, a point gained. Everybody's got a different view on it. And of course, we've got Everton coming to the King Power on Saturday, which already we've titled this, Is It a 6-Pointer? It's so early in the season, but it feels like there's a lot riding on it. Now, we've got the next 30 minutes. Get your views in, get your comments in. Let me know what you think about Leicester City this week.
The Leicester City machine is on the march again.
Leicester Fan TV presents a variety of content like fan discussions, match analysis, and engaging with Leicester fans worldwide. We want your views live, thanks to our sponsors, Everard's, Pucker Pies, Hologram, Take Me, Newbie & Co, and the Fox's Arms. For exclusive extra shows, behind the scenes, competitions and podcasts, subscribe to Leicester Fan TV today on Patreon.
Good evening, welcome. So much to talk about already this early in the season. Don't forget you can follow us at Leicester Fan TV on whatever social media platform you want. But tonight is all about getting as many of your views in as possible in there. Clibbo, watching it on YouTube, good evening, get your views in. Mark says, what happens if we lose to Everton? That's a great question, Mark. People put in the comments, what does happen? It's not the end of the world. It wouldn't be great, though, Mark, would it, at all, in there? Mark Gatwood, fair question, says Scott. I think most fans will be in the mindset of we're not staying up and being on Cooper's back. I think it is massive because I think we obviously all know we need a win. We all know that we need some momentum to start. And Everton, they haven't played that bad. If you watch their games, Everton haven't been that bad. They have capitulated a couple of times. And you know what it's like when you watch Leicester. You don't want a team on a bad run or this run to come to the King Power. We always seem to be the team that lets those teams get away with it. Don't forget, get your views in, get your comments in live. We're going to get as many on screen as possible. Tom and Simon are going to be joining me very, very shortly as well. Michael E, watching on YouTube, says, definitely 2 points dropped. It's a funny one, Michael, isn't it? I would have been happy, and I was happy with a point before the game even kicked off. We were hanging on, and it didn't quite come off. What do you think of Cody? He looked gutted. He looked annoyed. He looked very, very angry. A lot of fans pointing fingers saying Cooper went too defensive. Do you agree with that? What do you think? Did Cooper get it a bit wrong? Did we nearly hang on? The week before, or the match before we played Villa, they were hanging on and they managed it. So it sometimes goes both ways. Bubba, watching out there in the United States of America. Good evening, Bubba, says, absolute must win on Saturday. Bubba, I'm going to ask you this and everybody else watching it. I'm going to say it's a mustn't lose one. That's my take on it. I do want us to win, but a lot of people I was speaking to some people today going, well, it's a must win. If we don't win, that's it. But I'm like, well, we really, really wouldn't want to lose to Everton. I hope we do beat them, but I feel it's a bit more mustn't lose, but I do want to win it. Matty says, no fireworks, please. I don't know if you're talking about yesterday's show. If you've not watched it, do go and check out yesterday's Aftermath show with Jamie, Locks and Reading. It did get lively. Well done to Jamie for managing to, just about keep a lid on it. Good evening, Nick. Hope you're well. Gav, hope you're well. The counsellor. Good evening, sir. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Andy says, should have won on Saturday. Andy, come on. Do the maths, Andy. We didn't drop 3 points, or I don't know if you're talking about the whole season, but you could class we dropped 2 points on Saturday. The councillor says Everton game is what we got promoted for. One of many cup finals, and the KP should be rocking. That I wholeheartedly agree with you. But Clive says Everton will be a tough game. It certainly will be a tough game. Again, it's an interesting debate we could all have. I'll chat with Simon and Tom in a minute. Some fans are saying to me like, well, Palace away, that's 3 points. Everton at home, that's 3 points. Bournemouth at home, that's 3 points. Brentford away, 3 points. I'm like, guys, we are not the side we were before we got relegated. We are not currently a top 6, 8 team challenging for Europe, which we were. That season we got relegated. That's what we were. We were buying players. We were positioned to be championing into Europe. It's changed. It's different. We've got to adjust. We've got to rebuild to that. LCFC DP on YouTube says Cooper got the subs wrong, but the team selection seemed to work. It certainly was a little bit more attacking, I think, against Crystal Palace. Or, question, was it the fact that Palace are nowhere near as good as Villa and Spurs? Let's be honest, because they're not. Have a feeling, says a Canal on YouTube, have a feeling Leicester might draw with Everton. Do you agree with Canal in there? Again, it's not the end of the world if we draw. We all want to win, but it's probably not the end of the world in there. I want your views, I want your comments. If you can do me a favour, please like and share this video. If you're watching live, we really appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, do subscribe as well. Ben says, we've got a squad that's good enough to stay up. We have acquired some decent attacking players, but the Welsh Gareth Southgate insists on starting 8 defensive players every week, holding us back. Okay, do you agree with Ben? Do you disagree with him? Let me know your views in there. Again, my quick reaction to you, Ben, is you got to keep as much, you got to defend as much as you can in this league. We are not playing Rotherham and Bristol City anymore and Plymouth. We've got to defend as well. Everton fans are thinking it's a must-win too. Yeah, they'll come gunning for it. And don't forget, last time we played Everton, the season we got relegated, 2-0 up, Maddison penalty just before half-time, misses it. We all know what else happens. That was the game that could have kept us up. And we all thought that day we had to beat Everton. And we did. Ben says, I said this already, because we won the court case, they're going to scrutinise us in other ways. And it's going to be VAR because Palace's first goal shouldn't have counted. I've watched a Sky Sports video tonight on did that goal stand or not. It's not clear. Again, I could redraw those lines. I could take that into Photoshop, redraw the lines to suit my argument either way on that. Matty Bond says, let's all back Cooper. Sick of the negativity. After 10 games, let's gauge. I hear Matty. I'm with you on that. And again, I'm going to bring Simon and Tom in now. So welcome to the show, Tom and Simon. Thanks so much for joining us. Now, listen, tonight, lads, we're going to get as many comments in as ever we can. Matty said there about 10 games, we're going to judge him. I'll start with you, Tom. I've never known Tom, in my memory of watching Leicester, us be 4 games into a season, and I've literally read sack Cooper already. After 4 games, I'm being honest now, can you remember a previous manager we've had that has caused this much of and it has been debate over the weekend about Cooper before, after four games in and we're 15th?
You're probably going back to Martin O'Neill days or Paulo Sousa days, possibly, for a manager to get that much hatred very quickly. Martin got a lot of stick very quickly, if I remember rightly. Paulo Sousa didn't take long before the Boo Boys were out in force because of the style of play we were trying to do, and we didn't have the players to play out from the back. I think it's harsh on Cooper. I'm not going to sit here. I'm not Cooper's biggest fan. And Phil, remember when we were talking about managers coming in, he was not on my list to be the next Leicester City manager, not because of his links to Forest, but just because I didn't think he was a progression manager. You know, you've just taken on Enzo. The style of play, the way he plays is more down to a Carver Hall. He's very similar, the styles, you'd say. You weren't looking at Cooper for that because he doesn't play anywhere near the way that Enzo played. So it's a bit of a mismatch when you're changing a system. But sit here after 4 games, 2 points on the board. I'd say 2.5 performances have been very good, not bad at all. The other 1.5, I think the first half against Tottenham was shocking. We were nowhere in sight. We looked miles off the pace, and I thought the performance against Fulham was nowhere near good enough. I think against Villa, we did quite well most of the game, probably left it too late at times. But again, I don't think Cooper reacted quick enough. He'd set the team up to play in a formation that he thought they were going to go through us. He didn't expect them to sit deep and counter-attack, what Villa basically did. And for me, Cooper needed a bit more proactive there and get the subs on quicker. And then coming into the game at the weekend, I think there's a lot of people that if we'd sat here with a 2-1 victory, no one would have said boo to a goose to keep Cooper's changes. Obviously, Cooper made some interesting changes, let's put it that way. I think his hands are tied at the moment by not having another striker available. Obviously, that all changes against Everton with Edwards available. I think Vardy, basically, you can't play Vardy for 90 minutes. Everyone said to me there, what's your problem with Vardy? No problem with Vardy. But after 70 minutes, he can't charge around that pitch like he does. He's 37. You need fresh legs up top. But the problem you've got is Bonucci's not going to hold the ball up. El Canusi's not going to hold the ball up and do what you want with it to do. So he's left Vardy on there, but it leaves Vardy very isolated. The changes with Ndidi for Chowdhury is an obvious one because Ndidi's on a yellow card. What you can't then factor in is that that VAR were going to completely screw us straight away, but 30 seconds, because it was 30 seconds after score, is that goal doesn't count. It's a different ball game for me. Palace fans start to get a bit agitated. They're 2-0 down. The goal being chucked off. It's a different atmosphere. As soon as they get the goal, they get a lifeline. And I know fans will say 15 minutes to go, he made all these changes, but I'd say 50% of the football managers in the country in the relegation scrap are going to make the same kind of changes and bring on an experienced centre half. You don't expect your experienced centre half then to be laying on the floor in the box and chuck his foot up in the air to try and win the ball. You expect him to pull his foot away and let Zaha run into the box, in my head there, because again, it's probably 1 in 10 that Zaha puts it in the top corner from that position. I generally think it's a bit harsh to criticise him after 4 games. It's harsh. I'm not sitting here. I'm not going to sit having a Cooper love in here, by the way. I'm not, because I don't.
No, me neither.
He's got to
learn quickly.
He's got to learn quickly how to change things, and that's what we need to see now going into the Everton game. And for me, that's either go 2 up front, change it up a little bit, and make sure you've got someone around Vards. Edwards can play in the 2. We've seen that at Palace. And use Ricardo. You've got your best right back. We're conceding goals for fun down that right hand side with JJ. You've got to be able to change something there for me, and that's what I want to see now.
Tom, we will come on to Ricardo Pereira very shortly. Simon, welcome to the show. I just want to start, Simon, my question off to you here. And again, Leicester Fan TV, I say it a lot, but it's all about fans' views. We don't all agree. And that's what it is. It's a good debate in the right spirit, as if we're all having a pint down there. And Ben, I pass this almost over to you, Simon. There is a lot of Leicester fans who will agree with Ben and say, and Ben says here, yeah, we might not be a top 6 team anymore, but we should be in the top 12. And that's Ben's opinion, and that's fine. But we have my opinion on it, Simon, is we've come from a much deeper position. We've just come back from the Championship. When we got relegated, we lost Yuri Tielemans, we lost Maddison, we lost Harvey Barnes. All 3 of those are better, in my opinion, than any player we have in the current squad, as far as I know so far. I haven't seen some of the new lads play enough games to say any of them are anywhere near Maddison, Barnes or Yuri Tielemans' quality. Simon, Tom mentioned Paulo Sousa, who my memory was he wasn't liked by the fans, but I believe he went because I think we got hold of Sven and replaced, and there was a move to bring in a glamour manager, which was Sven-Göran Eriksson, RIP, obviously. Gary Megson springs to mind, maybe, as a manager that nobody took to. Martin Allen, somebody else mentioned in the comments, but Martin Allen was just, off the rails. So Gary Megson, I'd go. What, Simon? That was a long question. Why is it that there feels like so much animosity to Steve Cooper so quickly? Because there is, isn't there? And I know you're not his biggest fan by a long way, which is fine.
No, I'm not. And I like Tom. I didn't really. He wasn't my pick for our manager this season. I didn't fancy him, if I'm honest. But I think once he comes in, and whatever your thoughts are prior to him being appointed, once he's appointed, it's absolutely counterproductive for the team's success. For the fans then to be riding the blokes back every 5 minutes, it's not going to help things. No matter how they try and block things out as a group of players and coaching staff, that's going to bleed in, and it's not going to help. But it does feel, even at this early stage, like there's a real division between our fan base. There are those that believe give the guy a chance. There are those that believe he was the right appointment, and there are others that obviously are looking for blood from game one. I don't think some of the way some of the games has played out, in my opinion, has really played to a more positive stance. I personally thought he made some tactical errors towards the end of the Palace game. I thought he was too negative, and I actually thought that he underestimated the ability of our squad with the decisions he made. And watching the game, once we got into that phase of Palace just kind of laying siege to our box for 15 to 20 minutes with one goal in the game, you knew we were going to be lucky to get out of it with the 3 points.
But Simon, didn't we do the same against Aston Villa 2 weeks before, where they were 2-1 up and we laid siege to their goal? 2 penalty shouts that were close. We had shots go wide. We nearly did the same to Villa. It's what happens. The home team comes and has a go with 10 or 15 to go if they're losing. You try and hold on.
I suppose
you don't most managers don't stick another attacking player or striker on and go, we're 2-1 up, I'm going to go for a third. When you're under the cosh, most of us would say, hold tight, everybody. Here's another defender. That's football, isn't it?
It is football, but it's my opinion. My opinion is the way you stop another team from laying siege to you and just coming with wave after wave of attack is to try and keep the ball yourself, to take the ball away from the opposition so they can't do it. Now, if you take the creativity away or your outlet away and you replace that with blockers, then you aren't going to have anybody to give the ball to who's going to hold it up for any length of time, and you're just going to keep inviting pressure on. We sat deeper and deeper and deeper as those 20 minutes ensued at the end of that game at Palace. And the deeper we got, as you said, the more they overloaded, the more they put on attacking subs. They could smell blood. And we didn't have anyone just to get up there, keep the ball and try and get that pressure off of our defensive lines for any time at all. And as Tom alluded to, Vardy's race was run by that point. And I noticed
still chasing balls down in injury time, though, Simon.
He was.
And again, who would you go on then? I hear your argument, which is fine. How would you have done it slightly differently? What did Cooper get wrong that would have been more?
I thought indeed he had a cracking game on Saturday. He was fantastic and he was linking up with attacking play better than we've seen so far this season. He was playing that role more advanced in midfield, and I felt like when he came off the pitch, we lost that link, and without that person to be a little bit more forward thinking in midfield, we just then folded backwards. And I'd rather have seen someone come on in the middle of the park to try and be a little bit more creative, to keep the ball and get that pressure off of the back lines, even if it was only for a few seconds at a time. It just allows people to regroup. And it just reminded me a little bit of some of the games, if I'm being honest, when we in the relegation season when Rodgers was in charge and we had one goal or slender leads and we ended up clinging on and getting caught out a lot. And I really hope, personally, that that's not something that we repeat too often this season.
You didn't quite answer it though, Simon. I'm going to say, if you'd have took Ndidi off, would you have put Buenatti on? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, take your pick. There was a couple of lads on the bench that could have come on and just given us a little bit of an outlet, in my opinion, just to try and get the ball up the other end of the park. But
that's Buenatti, isn't it?
Or El Canouse, the new lad we spent a lot of money on very recently.
Yeah, he's played 10 minutes before.
But I mean, ultimately, Phil, we went into the season with no attacking midfield players. Almost, we signed a couple of guys pretty much before the death. We haven't got the luxury of anything other than to use those players that we got available.
Tom, last year we watched a match. I forget which one it was, where Hamza Chowdhury threw his body on the line, literally won us the game towards the end of last season. You remember it? West Brom. Thank you. And literally saved us that day. Won us the points by doing that. Listen, I end up sounding like I'm a Cooper cheerleader because I'm just trying to say the guy's not perfect. But I can see what he was trying to do, defend a 2-1 lead when you're away at home at Palace. Sometimes it's very tricky because had Cody, an ex-England international, not had a split second of madness, we'd have probably won that and had a very different debate yesterday and today, wouldn't we?
You could say the same thing about Fatu, our creative player, by the way, when we keep talking about players doing things creative, getting the ball on the halfway line and then shooting from the halfway line. You know what I mean? Like in the middle of that game, for me, brain dead, absolutely brain dead by Fatu there as well. Because for me, you get the ball on the halfway line, you head to the corner flag. That was like the 90th minute. This was before that penalty went in. We talk about having attacking opportunities in the game. But when that ball came to Abdul, his first thing was, I'm going to shoot from the halfway line. Go to the corner. I think that at the time it was 2-on-2 or 3-on-2. Have a run at your man. You've got all that pace. A tiring Palace defence who've got no shape to them because obviously they've chucked all their attacking play on. It worked both ways. You can say, well, we should have done better defending. But then when you have all that opportunity to attack when we're the limited amount to attack, you've got to do better than shooting from the halfway line. So it falls in both categories there, really, as well, on what we should be doing. Look, changes for me, by the way, boys, we'll jump back to changes. Obviously, all pre-season, Cooper worked on Mavididi playing up front at one point. So why not put Mavididi up front and bring Vardy off for that position? You then could have brought on El Khanous or Bonotti. I'm not sitting here and saying Cooper got it right. What I feel sorry is that Cooper's not the one who made the challenge. Cooper did, like I said earlier, what 50% of managers do in that position away from home 2-1 in a relegation scrap season. They went defensive to try and shore up, putting 3 in the back line. It didn't work because of a silly mistake. We all could sit and say if and buts. That's going to be the whole of this season. It's going to be if and buts and who about it. What I like to see in the next 6 games, because I always say I'll give a manager 10 games. I want to see now how Cooper reacts in the Everton game. Who does he start up front? Who does he play on the wing? He's got to learn now quickly, because if he doesn't start learning, the fan base, including me, will start to get frustrated with him very, very quickly. That's the thing about it. I'm not sitting here thinking I love Cooper, because I don't think it was the right appointment from the start of the season. What I'm saying is, but he's the manager of his football club. And if fans think that if we lose to Everton on Saturday, that the club are going to sack him, that is not going to be the case. The club are not going to sack Steve Cooper straight away after that Everton game if we were to lose on Saturday. I'll say if. I believe we will beat Everton on Saturday. I think they're one of the poorest teams in this division. I think if you get at them, and I think Cooper will go at them from the start, they will crumble very, very quickly once they concede. You've seen that now. They've gone 2 games in a row, 2-0 up. As soon as the goal went in, the whole team crumbles. So for me, it's all about that first goal is going to be crucial on Saturday for winning the game.
The councillor says here, yes, Cody made an error. It happens and move on. Doesn't change the performance, which was very good for a tough game at Palace, says the councillor. Cody, again, I've not blamed Cody at all, apart from saying it was his mistake in the 92nd minute. I'm not having a go at Cody, Simon, but he had enough time and enough skill where I hark back sometimes to the season we won the Premier League title, where Robert Huth and Wes Morgan, when they're in that situation, had the common sense to put it into the stands or put it out. And I know some people would say, if you just booted it forward, it's just going to come back at you. I'd go, yeah, but 92nd minute and you're trying to take a touch and whatever Cody was trying to do, you could see Cody knew instantly by his reaction what a massive guff he's gone. Cooper may well not pick him for the foreseeable future. Behind closed doors, I'm sure he won't be happy with that, Simon.
No. I mean, of all our centre-backs, if I asked you to write them all down in a bit of paper and pick one to do that right at the death of a game, I would suggest Connor Cody would be the last one you pick, yes. because of his experience and his game management knowledge and his situation understanding because of his long career in the Premier League. The only thing I'd caveat that with is he's been injured and he's barely played a game, because of that injury. He probably hasn't trained a lot. So, he's probably not the sharpest tool in the box right now in terms of match sharpness. So, it was an extremely precious situation. It was the Alamo in our box and he's in there having to make split-second decisions. It's not, and also it's never easy to get into that situation coming in very late on in a game in that scenario. So, yeah,
Simon,
I'm sure he's still kicking himself now, Cody, about what he did.
I think there is. You see, this is why, not a Cooper cheerleader, but I am seeing positives. And Mark Gatwood says here, Fies and Diddy, followed by Skip, were best players on the day positives. Jamie Vardy looks like he can still find the net. I felt the biggest positive, Simon, so far this season is I felt in all 4 games, probably Fulham the least, but in certainly the others, I felt we've been at the races. I feel like we've been competitive, and I feel like the results haven't quite gone our way, but I do feel, Simon, we're competing with a team who finished 6th, a team who finished 4th, a Palace and Fulham away. We haven't. Do you feel that is there at least? We can be competitive?
I think, yeah, absolutely yes, and I think that's maybe some of my personal frustration with it. In that, I think that maybe we're not doing ourselves enough justice on the pitch at times, and maybe my opinion again. I don't think maybe there's enough confidence being put in that team to go and get 3 points at times. We're being a little bit pensive in some of the ways we're tactically managing games. I think we're better than that. I don't agree with some of the comments that we're a top half side. I don't think we're anywhere near that, but I think we should be able to compete with everybody in the bottom half of that league at least. And I think we should go at games with that attitude. I mean, for me, the first half against Palace was probably the best performance I've seen this season. I thought we was outstanding, and I suppose like you said at the start of this show, if we'd have been told at 2:30 we were going to get a point, we probably would have all snapped that up. But having watched the game and how it played out, we'd earned 3 points from that game, in my opinion, and it was galling afterwards then to end up only with one.
Yeah, it's interesting. Tom, listen, there's a whole heap to go through. Everton is on Saturday. I'm sort of really looking forward to it, but it is going to be tense and exciting, Tom. It's one of those. That's what we want to be back in the Premier League for. Is I'm more excited about playing Everton than I was about any of the games last season.
You have to be. These are the games that are going to count and decide where we finish in the Premier League this season, if we stay up or if we go down. There's 6 to 8 teams this year that we are competing against, and there's 3 teams. I said you've got to do one thing. You've got to be better than 3 other teams in this division. So far, we are. We've got 2 points on the board. We're better than Wolves. We're better than Southampton. We're better than Ipswich. You've got it's a weird one to look at it, but that's all you've got to do is be better than 3 teams. And 17th position, you take it now. You take it now on goal difference. That's the only way to do it. And as much as I look at it and think we should have more points on the board, I still think we should have been 4 points to be sitting here today. And if you'd said that, then you would have been like, well, if you look at the season we came up with a Pearson, we had 5 points at the same stage you would have been. So you can't really question the difference how we've done. The Everton game, the likes of Brentford, the Wolves, the Southamptons, the Ipswich, these are the games we've got to make sure that stadium is positive going into. It can't be a toxic atmosphere. That's all I can say tonight, really. We've got to go into that game believing that we are going to win. We are believing we're going to get a performance in, we're going to get something to cheer about. Like I said at some point earlier, we haven't been battered by anyone yet. When you look at the likes of Wolves, they've taken a tonking by Chelsea so far. Southampton are getting hit 3-0 most weeks. We haven't. We're keeping ourselves in games. And I know that doesn't win you football matches, but there's got to be some belief behind it, because look at the season we came up with the Pearson. That's exactly what we were doing under Nigel, was keeping ourselves in football matches and getting draws, turning those draws into wins in the back end of the season. We've got to get behind the team. The negativity towards Cooper after 4 games is quite bad, really. And I'm not sitting here saying, oh, let's all be Cooper cheerleaders, but don't sit there and cheer Cooper. Back the players, and back the players who are on the pitch what he's picked. It's all you can do to try and get results Saturday, because if we concede a goal on Saturday, I heaven forbid how toxic that ground will turn quickly on Saturday if we go a goal behind. That's what my fear is. It could turn nasty very quickly. What's not going to do is any favours, and we might as well relegate ourselves now before we even start.
I'm going to ask you both this, and there's been a lot of comments in it. We'll put Daniel's on screen here. He says start Ricardo. Simon, I know you've touched on that. Ricardo Pereira, when he's been fit over the last 2, 3, 4 years, has generally been one of those players who you go, they are Premier League quality. He is up there. He obviously had a good, really pretty decent season for us last year. Dropped down in the Championship. Now, I like James Justin. I like Victor Christensen. I think they're both decent players. But I can see why a lot of fans are saying, where is Ricardo Pereira? Because if you were looking at that team sheet, Simon, and we'll come on to you, Tom, he probably is one of those players. He probably is in the top 3 or 4 Leicester players overall, isn't he, for consistency and everything?
Absolutely.
What's your take on Ricardo? It is a bit of a surprise, isn't it?
Yeah, for me, you swap Justin over and you put Ricardo in. That's what I'd do. Justin's proved he can play down the left side. He's solid on both flanks. You just put him in. He's a dependable Premier League quality defender. He's multi-talented. He can, he's not afraid to get forward. And obviously, in those earlier days and last season with Enzo, he was playing a lot more in an advanced role at times. But even if that doesn't suit what Cooper wants to do, I'm absolutely sure he could do an outstanding job for us. And for me, that one for me is an enigma. I don't understand why he's not getting a sniff. And for me, the team goes up a level if he comes in the team. I think we'd be all the better for it. And I don't know whether there's been some kind of issue with him, or whether Cooper just doesn't fancy him. He doesn't feel like he suits his style. But for me, he would be a shoo-in every week.
I mean, Nick Ball says here, Tom, Cooper's mentioned players buying into his methods. Was he referring to Ricardo, who maybe doesn't? I mean, we all work in businesses and different places where they hey, we don't get on with everybody you work with necessarily, and you can be, he's not doing it. But I still feel and I'm not saying there is any of this, Tom. I still feel Ricardo Pereira is probably in the top 3, 4, 5 players in the club. It would be an easy one for Cooper to put him in on Saturday and placate a lot of fans.
I think you saw last season when Ricardo didn't play because of injury or knocks that it was a different team. He brings a belief to the team, in my view. He brings a different attitude to the team as well. He's the experience in the back line, really, that we probably need a little bit more in the Premier League. That's no offence to Wild Fowls, but he had one season. Ockley's had no season. Christensen has barely played any Premier League football. JJ's got a couple of years underneath him, but Ricardo probably is that little bit of glue that we need in the team with Roger to calm things down when it gets a bit hectic, and it does. And at the moment, as much as I love Wild Faz, the way he chucks his arms around when things aren't going right and has a go at people, it doesn't help the team, in my view. You look at Ricardo when he starts doing it, and Ricardo has a go at him and tells him to pack it in. He tells him to calm down. I truly believe Cooper raises the fan base tenfold by picking Ricardo on Saturday, and it builds him gives him a bit more of credibility to what he's trying to do. He has to pick him. I agree. I don't think Christensen looks anywhere. I will give him 10 out of 10 for heart, passion, and commitment. But as for quality, he's lacking that ability in the Premier League for me. He did well in Italy last year. You give him that to get a team to the Champions League spot, but it's a different ball game over there. In England, you are up against it from the start. I just think Ricardo, the right back, Justin as left back, I completely agree with you there. It just solids that defence up a little bit more. People might not agree with that. I think Ricardo coming back in settles it down. So I'll just note out the corner of my eye that in the United States derby, Wrexham have just taken the league at Birmingham.
I mean, Simon, I agree with Tom. I think sometimes being a manager is about being PR and listening to what's going on in the fan base. And again, it wouldn't be rocket science if I was advising Cooper, which he probably doesn't listen to anybody like me, but I would say probably pop Ricardo Pereira in, and somewhere you probably need to put in Buonatti, who we've seen 27 games last year for Brighton. We've seen a little bit of him this year. Look decent. I wouldn't quite gamble yet on the young lad from Greece because not seeing enough of him. But if Buonatti's fit or El Canuti, can't say them. Put them in. But it'd be hard to take Ndidi out because he had a good game. And Skip, I thought Skip's done ever so well as well. But that would be the two for me, Simon. Drop in Ricardo Pereira, get a creative midfielder in, and probably those that grumble pre-match with we're not being creative enough, that probably answers that. And you are at home and you are against Everton. That's my take on it.
Yeah, put a team on the pitch to go and win the game. Not to. I mean, it's felt. I mean, let's get this in perspective. Yeah, Tom's absolutely right. We're not getting battered. We don't look miles adrift. We're competitive, which is great. I'm not taking that away from anybody at the club. It's good that we're in games, but there's a gulf between being in a game and winning a game. And for me, Cooper was vocal before the season started about getting some attacking quality into the squad to allow us to have that little bit of X factor coming forward. we've got that now. The club went and got it, so use it. And I absolutely agree with you. Making those couple of changes, certainly from my point of view, and I think there's a fair amount of fans that would agree, would give me a little bit more optimism about our chances of winning the game when you've got players on the pitch that can facilitate it. But he's got a dilemma because Ndidi, I thought, was outstanding at the weekend, and to drop him on the back of that performance on Saturday would be a brave man to do that. So it's that's what managers get paid for, I suppose, to make those decisions. But I'd like to see someone who could unlock some doors in the midfield this weekend. And what we're expecting, what we're hoping, what we're kind of almost saying's got to happen is that we've got to beat Everton, and that will mean they've lost 5 games on the bounce. They're not going to want to do that.
It's certainly anybody thinking that Leicester playing Everton because they've lost 4 on the trot will be easy. For me, it just won't be. I know they have lost 4 on the trot, but they weren't unlucky, Tom, but they played all right in a lot of these games. Patrick said, by the way, drop Ayew. I thought he's been decent and solid, but this is why we all watch slightly different games. And I will agree with what Daniel said here. Cooper does not know his best team yet. He probably doesn't, Daniel. He's played 4 games. He signed a couple of players right before the transfer deadline. And again, Tom, we're never privy. Fans never know how fit some of these players have come. The guy who's just come from Greece, we don't know how match fit he was. There's rumour that Buenati's got a bit of a knock. I always think if they're on the bench, they're good enough. They should be. They're available, but that's not always the case, Tom.
No, you don't know how fit players are. Obviously Minotti had a knock at the weekend. I don't think they want to risk him. I think they probably, if you've been losing, they might have brought him on. It's a different story, isn't it? When you're losing a game, you have to bring on some attacking players. Look, it's a massive game. We all know it. There's not much else to say, but it is a massive game. It is a 6-pointer, and it's the 5th game of the season. It's crazy to be thinking like that, but generally, looking at how many points clubs have been going down with the last couple of years, the gap between the Premier League and the Championship is getting further and further away each year. And the teams that come up at the basic, you haven't got to get as many points. You've just got to be beating the weaker teams around you to make sure you're staying in the league. And to be doing that, but Everton, they'll be kicking themselves to be lost 2 games ago after being 2-0 up. But that ain't going to be an easy game on Saturday. And Dyche, you're not going to let them come here and lose another game. He ain't going to want to do that. We saw that in the season when we got relegated, turning points, missing a penalty for half time, them taking a point. 2 points drop would have kept us in the league that season. Their fan base, we know what they're like. Their fan base will sing behind them for the next 90 minutes. That's what Leicester fans got to do on Saturday. Raise the volume at the King Power. That atmosphere's got to be raucous. You've got to get behind the team. You've got to make it a cauldron in there. You've got to make it horrible for Everton to want to be there. If we don't, Everton will come and start playing their football and try and win the game quite quickly. I can see that already. They're not going to come and defend for 90 minutes, Everton. They didn't do it against Villa. I can't see them doing it against us. They're going to come and try and attack us from the start, put us under pressure, make us sit back. Somehow Cooper's got to work that out quick enough to see that's what they're going to do, because that's what I think they will do. Everton will not come and sit back on Saturday. Everton will come and attack us from the start. Leicester have got to go toe-to-toe on Saturday for me to win the game.
It's going to be a good one. Scott says, just remind us what players come from Greece this transfer window. I'm talking about the Moroccan guy. I thought he came from a Greek team. Didn't he, Simon?
Belgium. He came from Belgium, Phil.
I know. Oh, thank you. There you go, Scott. I've told you, I'm clean about these things. I'm not the biggest world expert on Leicester City. I'm just a fan. Like Tom's just a fan. Simon's just a fan. We just talk about it because we enjoy it. Who knows? Yeah, what a player. Wouldn't mind him back in the team. Listen, guys, I'm not going to do any score predictions. Let's just leave that. Locks is live on Thursday at 6:30, where he'll be previewing the match. So make sure you join him live on Leicester Fan TV. Tom, I'll see you down the game. Same for you, Simon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Take care.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Simon. Great to get the lads on. Let's not bother with score predictions yet. There's a whole 4 or 5 days to build up to the match. It does feel we're 5 games in on Saturday. It feels like already this is what we wanted to be back in the Premier League for. Already the stakes are so much higher. It's so much more exciting in there. Richie's going for 4-0. Richie, I said no score predictions yet. Save it all for Lox's show on Thursday at 6:30. Same for you, Keith. Keep 3-alls. Yes. Sadly, I can see it being something like 3-all. I think you're probably right. Scott gets the last comment. He says, thanks, Phil, Simon, and Tom. Grey show. It was very grey. I think you're trying to say great, but maybe you are right. We are all going great. Listen, guys, thanks as ever. I'll see you next Monday. And I'll see you down at the King Power. Come say hello, give us your views. We'll be filming live afterwards as well to get all the comments in. Let's hope it's Leicester win. It's never easy. It's never easy.
The Leicester City machine is on the march again.
Leicester Fan TV presents a variety of content like fan discussions, match analysis, and engaging with Leicester fans worldwide. We want your views live, thanks to our sponsors, Everard's, Pucker Pies, Hologram, Take Me, Newbie & Co, and the Fox's Arms. For exclusive extra shows, behind the scenes, competitions and podcasts, subscribe to Leicester Fan TV today on Patreon.